There's a reason INFJs leave people both fascinated and a little shaken, even when they're doing absolutely nothing unusual. Their presence carries a depth that feels impossible to ignore. If you've ever wondered why people react so strongly to their quiet power, you're about to find out in this video. INFJs carry a strange duality that can feel both magnetic and intimidating, and most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing anything unusual. Their nature flows from a deep, perceptive inner world that quietly shapes everything they do. What others interpret as terrifying is often just the INFJ being themselves, observant, intuitive, emotionally intelligent, and eerily accurate in ways that feel almost supernatural. It's the quiet power, the subtle psychological mastery, the spiritual depth, and the unique insight that make people pause, wonder, and sometimes fear them, without understanding why. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ Purpose Compass today. The link is in the description of this video. One of the most intimidating things INFJs do is read people on a level that feels impossible. They pick up micro-expressions, tone shifts, underlying motives, emotional inconsistencies, and even suppressed feelings, often within seconds of meeting someone. While others see the surface, INFJs instantly see the emotional truth behind it, even truths the person hasn't admitted to themselves. To the INFJ, this feels natural. They're simply noticing things. But to the person being read so effortlessly, it can feel as though their soul has been cracked open by someone who barely spoke. It's especially frightening for people who depend on masks, deflection, or manipulation to maintain control, because the INFJ walks right past the facade and sees the real person with unnerving clarity. Their silence is equally powerful. Many people find comfort in noise or outward expression because silence forces exposure. But INFJs know how to sit in silence in a way that's piercing rather than peaceful. Their quiet carries weight. When they're observing someone or processing the room, their energy becomes still and focused, and it makes people second-guess themselves. They don't have to speak to command attention. Their presence alone shifts the emotional atmosphere. This silent intensity becomes even more unsettling when combined with their unblinking focus. The kind of gaze that feels like it's searching for answers hidden between your words. Then there's the INFJ's ability to detach emotionally with precision. They may be known for compassion, warmth, and empathy, but when someone crosses a line too many times or repeatedly violates their values, the INFJ can cut that person off with cold, surgical finality. There's no drama, no yelling, no emotional pleas. They simply withdraw all their emotional investment and disappear psychologically long before they leave physically. This sudden shift from deeply caring to calm detachment shocks people, because it exposes a side of the INFJ that most never expect. The ability to shut down every emotional connection in an instant and never look back. The same heart that nurtured becomes impenetrable, and the speed and certainty with which they do this is terrifying to those who once thought the INFJ would tolerate anything. Another intimidating trait is the INFJ's unique foresight. They don't just see what's happening, they sense where things are going. They connect patterns, study behaviors, and intuitively predict outcomes with startling accuracy. They can warn someone about a relationship, a business decision, or a hidden motive with such precise insight that it feels prophetic when it eventually happens. People who don't understand intuition often feel unsettled by this ability, especially when the INFJ predicts uncomfortable truths. To the INFJ, it feels like common sense. To everyone else, it's chilling how easily they seem to see the future. INFJs also ask questions that go straight to the heart of a person's being. They're not afraid to explore uncomfortable emotional territories or deep psychological contradictions. Conversations with them can feel like therapy, confession, and soul exposure all at once. They instinctively know what to ask, how to ask it, and how to sit with answers that others avoid. For people who don't want to face themselves, this depth feels threatening. INFJs don't interrogate to intimidate. They simply crave truth and emotional authenticity, but their ability to unearth hidden realities is startling to those who prefer to remain on the surface. Their emotional endurance is another silent form of intimidation. People expect highly sensitive individuals to be fragile, but INFJs often endure emotional storms with a surprising level of strength. They navigate pain with introspection and calm, processing what others would crumble under. Their resilience confuses and frightens people who assume empathy equals weakness. When someone realizes the INFJ has quietly survived traumas, betrayals, or hardships that would break the average person, they start to see them differently. Someone soft yet unshakable. Someone gentle yet forged by fire. INFJs also possess a subtle ability to influence others without force. They don't manipulate, they guide. Their words carry emotional intelligence, clarity, and purpose, and people naturally look to them for direction. Their calm confidence, moral grounding, and intuitive insight create a gravitational pull. People follow their advice, adopt their perspectives, and adjust their behavior around them, sometimes without realizing it. This natural ability to shift dynamics can be deeply unsettling to people who rely on dominance, because the INFJ leads through presence rather than power. They have the ability to see both the light and the shadow in people and still choose compassion. They understand darkness. They see people's flaws, traumas, insecurities, and hidden wounds, not as weaknesses, but as parts of the person's story. Their empathy is conscious, not blind. This level of perceptive compassion is intimidating because it means the INFJ cannot be easily fooled. They can love without idealizing and forgive without forgetting. They hold space for others' humanity while refusing to submit to manipulation. To people who depend on emotional control or deceit, the INFJ's blend of kindness and discernment is terrifying because it disarms every tactic at once. The interesting thing is that INFJs don't even try to be intimidating. They simply live in a depth most people avoid. Their insight is sharp, their intuition is penetrating, their emotional power is quiet but immense, and their ability to withdraw is absolute. They operate from a place of truth, not performance, and truth, especially emotional truth, can be the most frightening force in the world. Another quietly terrifying thing INFJs do is sense emotional shifts in real time, often before the people involved even recognize what they're feeling. They can detect the moment someone's mood changes, the instant resentment begins to grow, or the subtle flicker of disappointment behind a forced smile. They may respond with a knowing look, a gentle comment, or a sudden pause in the conversation. And this unnerves people because it exposes emotions they were trying to hide or didn't know how to articulate. The INFJ's ability to track emotional currents with such precision can make others feel emotionally transparent, even when the INFJ never says a word about what they perceived. INFJs also have a natural ability to trigger deep self-reflection in others without trying. Their presence often makes people behave differently, more honestly, more vulnerably, sometimes even more defensively. This happens because INFJs project a psychological mirror. They quietly reflect people back to themselves, highlighting inconsistencies, suppressed feelings, or unhealed wounds. People suddenly hear their own tone, notice their own patterns, or confront their own truth. This involuntary self-awareness can be incredibly uncomfortable for those who prefer distraction or denial, and the INFJ becomes someone they respect and fear at the same time. The way they respond to conflict is different. While many people escalate, react impulsively, or speak from wounded ego, INFJs tend to become calmer, sharper, and eerily composed. They shift into a state of quiet emotional control that can disarm even the most confrontational individuals. Their calmness is not passive, it's strategic. They choose their words carefully, break down emotional logic with surgical accuracy, and expose contradictions in ways that leave people stunned and unable to retaliate. Even those who intend to provoke or manipulate often walk away unable to regain their footing, because the INFJ doesn't fall into predictable emotional traps. There's also something unsettling about how INFJs know when to disappear. When the energy around them becomes toxic, manipulative, or draining, they withdraw so naturally that it feels like they've vanished into thin air. They don't explain themselves. They don't create drama. and they don't leave traces. They simply fade out of emotional reach. What terrifies people is the sudden realization that they no longer have access to the INFJ's warmth, insight, or presence, and that nothing can force the INFJ to return. This ability to detach without hesitation or guilt makes people who once underestimated them suddenly understand the depth of their boundaries. Another intimidating trait is their tendency to forgive quietly but remember everything. INFJs may let go of the grudge, release the anger, and genuinely wish someone well, but they never erase the lesson. They adjust their energy, their expectations, and their access to match what they've learned. This unnerves people who assume forgiveness equals restored trust. Instead, they discover that the INFJ's heart is compassionate, but their memory is exact, and their trust, once damaged, returns on entirely different terms. This combination of softness and sharp awareness creates a kind of moral authority that others find both admirable and frightening. INFJs also have a natural ability to see power dynamics clearly. Even in a group, they instantly understand who holds influence, who is being silenced, who is manipulating the situation, and who is quietly suffering. They can read the unspoken hierarchy and respond in ways that shift the balance without openly challenging anyone. With a simple comment or strategic silence, they can redirect the dynamic, empower the quiet person, or dismantle the manipulator's hold. People who rely on covert tactics often feel threatened by how quickly and subtly the INFJ destabilizes their control. Their creativity is another intimidating force. INFJs don't create from logic or ego. They create from vision, emotion, and intuition. Their ideas often carry a level of depth, symbolism, and originality that others struggle to understand at first. They can take abstract concepts and transform them into powerful writing, art, solutions, or insights that feel strangely prophetic or spiritually charged. People are often surprised by how effortlessly the INFJ channels meaning into everything they touch, and this ability to express the intangible can feel otherworldly. Another intimidating thing about them is the way they love. Their love is not shallow, impulsive, or conditional. It is profound, intuitive, transformative, and deeply observant. They love in a way that makes others feel seen at a soul level. And being seen this deeply can feel frightening for people who are used to hiding parts of themselves. INFJ love brings truth, growth, reflection, and emotional evolution. People often find themselves changed simply by being close to an INFJ. And that kind of impact, unforced, unintentional, and powerful, is something that feels both beautiful and terrifying. They have the ability to stay 3 steps ahead in emotionally complex situations. While others react to what's happening in the moment, INFJs quietly anticipate the next emotional shift, the next change in someone's behavior, or the next stage of a situation. They mentally prepare for outcomes that other people don't even see coming yet. This creates a strange dynamic where the INFJ is already internally responding to a future conflict, revelation, or shift long before it surfaces. To others, this feels eerie because the INFJ seems to already know what's about to collapse, evolve, or explode. And when it happens exactly as they predicted, people can't help but feel unnerved. INFJs also have a mysterious way of emotionally downloading someone's entire psychological pattern after a single deep conversation. While most people need repeated interactions to understand someone's motivations, INFJs often grasp the core of a person after one meaningful exchange. They absorb the emotional rhythm, trauma points, protective behaviors, desire for love, and hidden fears in a way that feels almost clairvoyant. This depth of understanding can terrify people who are used to being misread or underestimated. For once, someone sees them too clearly, and clarity can feel like exposure. Their emotional honesty is equally intimidating. INFJs don't do superficial reassurance or fake niceness. When they speak from the heart, their words cut straight to essence. Their compliments feel soul level. Their confrontations hit the truth directly, and their emotional reflections are so precise that they leave people speechless. They say things most people are too afraid to voice, and they say them gently but unmistakably. That level of direct, emotional truth-telling can shake even the most confident person, because it forces them to confront themselves in ways they usually avoid. INFJs can sense when someone is pretending, whether it's pretending to be confident, pretending to be interested, pretending to care, pretending to heal, or pretending to be unbothered. They see right through emotional performances, and the more someone tries to hide, the more clearly the INFJ perceives the truth. They don't always expose what they see, but their quiet awareness alone is enough to make others feel uneasy, especially people who depend on image or ego for validation. INFJs also have a way of becoming the emotional center of a group without trying. People naturally gravitate toward them, confide in them, look to them for guidance, or subconsciously adjust themselves around the INFJ's energy. This effortless influence can feel intimidating because it's organic, not forced. Even people who normally dominate social spaces find themselves softening, opening up, or behaving differently in the INFJ's presence. It reveals how much subtle power the INFJ holds, often more than they realize. Their moral courage is another intimidating trait they have. When something violates their values, INFJs become immovable. Their normally gentle, flexible nature transforms into unwavering conviction. They are willing to stand alone, challenge norms, reject toxic expectations, or walk away from situations that compromise their integrity. This unshakable moral backbone shocks people who mistake INFJs for passive or conflict-averse. When pushed into a values-based corner, they reveal a level of strength and inner certainty that can frighten those who expected compliance. INFJs can also emotionally disarm people simply by being authentically kind. For individuals who are used to manipulation, competition, or emotional games, the INFJ's sincerity is deeply threatening. Genuine kindness bypasses defenses and exposes insecurities. It forces people to confront the parts of themselves that don't know how to receive real care. This makes some feel vulnerable in ways they didn't consent to, and the INFJ becomes someone whose presence feels dangerously honest. They have the ability to transform through solitude. While many people fear being alone because it exposes their inner wounds, INFJs often disappear into solitude and return stronger, clearer, and more emotionally refined. Their time alone is not avoidance, it's resurrection. They use it to process deeply, heal, reorganize their emotional world, and emerge with a direction that feels almost divinely guided. This self-renewing power intimidates people who rely on external noise or validation to feel stable. Also, INFJs have a way of making people confront their own moral inconsistencies without saying a single word. Their behavior sets a silent standard of integrity, sincerity, emotional accountability, and authenticity. Standing next to an INFJ often exposes where someone else is cutting corners or lying to themselves. This makes people either admire them, distance themselves, or fear the quiet comparison that the INFJ never asked for but naturally creates.